Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a playful show for you. We're going to be talking about choosing your value.
Hi, I'm Paula Wallace, president of Bloom in the Dark, and this is
Ginny Priz, the single-handed serenity coach. Welcome to Bloom Today, where we talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal,
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Hey everybody, we're so excited to have you here today as we talk about choosing your value. And I think I want to choose a lot of value.
I choose 80 million bucks.
Value. I choose priceless.
Oh man, you beat me. Why didn't I think of that?
Oh yeah, you've done a speech about being priceless before.
I have.
Value is something that plays a big role when you're worried about being a victim, or you're seeing yourself through the eyes of a bully, or through the eyes of a perpetrator, or through the eyes of somebody who's trying to do you harm. It really messes up your self-esteem and your value system.
Just comparison to the media or things, actors you see on television and models in magazines, it all very much doesn't need to be anyone putting it on me. I could put my own value down pretty low on my own. I didn't need anyone else's help. Not that I didn't get other people to help me. But yeah, I didn't necessarily need it. I found myself pretty low on the totem pole for different reasons.
Well, what's crazy is when we see ourselves really badly, other people can actually see us as beautiful, as amazing, as incredible. And even if they tell us that, we don't necessarily receive it or believe it or anything, because we are in our own head seeing ugly and useless and worthless instead. And that totally messes up the value anyway, because I've seen people who are stunning have just as low self-esteem as somebody who struggles because they physically aren't the standard of beauty or acceptance in today's culture. So
and it changes every 10 years or so, the standard of beauty and what's popular and what's not. You know, in the 90s it was all very much everybody was straight and skinny and tomboyish, and then all of a sudden it turned into big butts.
Did we just say that on television?
Yeah, why not?
Everything else we talk about, right?
I mean, just the idea of body shape. What is the thing that you have to live up to? Short hair, long hair, straight hair, curly hair. It changes over time.
Skinny, curvy, tall, short, petite, whatever. And then the clothing and how that affects everything as well. Yeah, I think everybody fits the beauty standard more so at some stage or another.
Yeah, it was interesting to me to realize that at some point I had to choose how I saw myself. I got to choose. It was not just, I see myself as this and so it must be. It was, no, I can choose differently. I can choose to see myself how God sees me. I can choose to see myself for really who I am and what's going on, and not have to cater to or accept what other people are saying about me. So like my arm, for instance.
Well, I was going to say,
born with one. So where does this leave me in the beauty standards? Certainly not going to be a model anytime soon walking down the runway. But you have modeled. I have modeled, yes, as a one-arm model specifically.
Yes.
But you know, walking down a runway, you're supposed to be perfect. On a professional runway in New York or Paris or something like that, and so that wasn't something that I ever embraced as a possibility or goal in my life.
You're not tall enough either, by the way.
But I
just thought I'd tell you that.
You know, you got to point that out. See, I don't need.
I'm not tall enough either for that. So.
But I got to choose how I saw myself, and I chose to see myself as God's precious creation, beautiful and whole. And it was only later on in life that I recognized that this internal beauty that I had, I could choose to see that as well, not just the external body value, but the internal as well.
Yeah, and what's funny is when I was growing up, I was the string bean I was this super, super, super skinny and got 5'9" at the age of 13. So I was, what's funny is in some people's eyes, I was the actual image of the model, build and whatever. And the comedy is I was so ashamed of how I looked because I had people teasing me about it and putting me down and bullying me about it. And I believed all of that. It wasn't until later that I went, wait a second. If you look at these pictures, I kind of was the right look. Kind of like the right look for that.
The quote unquote right look, yeah.
Right, which is funny because, of course, now I'm nowhere near that particular look anymore. But in my process of healing from the brokenness and damage in my life, where I saw everything warped, everything, especially about myself. And there was one day I specifically remember when I was going through the divorce and I was at my most rejected and broken and devastated and struggling through all this mess. But I had been just asking God, show me something good. Show me myself through your eyes, something, because I'm feeling nothing but broken and hopeless and damaged. And I woke up one morning and I went in and looked in the mirror and my gray and white roots were showing. My face had broken out. I had yesterday's makeup on I hadn't washed off. Like, in human terms, I was very not at my best.
Right.
But I looked in the mirror and, oh my goodness, I saw beauty. I saw myself as beautiful.
Yeah.
It was incredible because I'd never, when I did look my best, I couldn't see beautiful.
Right.
And here I was looking pretty bad. And
by the world standards,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
And I just started glowing and smiling because what I saw was what God would see, what a loving person would see in who I am as a person.
Right.
And that's what I saw in the mirror. And I was like, wow, ever since then, because I still see ugly a lot of times when I look. But ever since then, I now had a comparison to know what was possible, to know, to choose to be grateful for who I was and how I was made, and to, instead of putting on glasses that say ugly, no matter what's true,
right,
to put on glasses that accept myself and say beautiful, no matter what.
No matter what, because that is true.
Thank you.
You're very beautiful.
And so are you.
Ah, so nice.
We have a little compliment fest here.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I think the idea is that every one of us can choose to see our value. It's just a matter of being intentional about that, and considering the viewpoints around us is a big part of that. Because for me, again, part of my story was other people's viewpoints, and I really accepted their viewpoint as truth. Somehow I thought that they knew better than I did. No, not actually. What I learned later on was that's not true. That what they're seeing and what they're sharing is what they're seeing through their own brokenness.
Through their lens, whatever color
their
lens.
Experiences, their hurt, their damage, they will never see me truly. They will see through their own lens.
Or even jealousy or envy, or some people I think put me down because they struggled with weight. So seeing me skinny was something to attack.
To make themselves feel better.
Which, again, wasn't balanced, wasn't a statement of my actual value.
Right.
It was them having their own perspectives and damage and what they were struggling with being projected onto me.
Exactly.
And that...
Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue.
So when they say that to you, it can really affect what you see and how you perceive yourself, and then your own viewpoint.
But we have the choice to accept whether or not we're going to accept that from someone else.
Right, because if you do accept it, then your own viewpoint is shifting to that damage that's being projected onto you. And that messes up if we're already feeling broken and then somebody else is projecting damage and brokenness onto us even more so, and we own that. Then again, like me, what you see in the mirror.
Cycle, yeah.
What you see in the mirror is not beauty, it's not wholeness, it's not life. And then you can even go to the other extreme where you get compliments a lot, and so what you start seeing in the mirror is so full of pride and self-esteem that's whatever, that it's you're looking down on everybody else because of where you're at, and that doesn't do you or anybody else any good either.
No.
So
if we've agreed with the world in any way, positively or negatively, and not looked at God's viewpoint of us, if we are just looking at what other people see, then we're never going to accept the truth, the real truth of what is there.
Which is that we're all beautiful and unique and have value.
Absolutely.
Regardless.
Priceless value.
Priceless value. Yeah, definitely the value I'm choosing is priceless.
Again, talking about this idea of the power of the tongue and words, and we have a tendency, and I've heard people say things about themselves just offhand, but the power of words. In Luke 6:35, it says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if anyone is confused about how do I really feel about myself, well, listen to what you are saying. Listen to the words that you're using about yourself. Are you on the side of, well, I am so beautiful and on the prideful side, or are you downplaying yourself, which I think is more common for women to say, or maybe it's just my experience, I don't know. Women to say, but that's not me. I'm not really all that pretty. It's just me, and minimizing what we have and what God has given us.
So for me, it was about just placing that value on me, on a healthy, balanced place.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the most beautiful of anybody. I don't have to be the ugliest of anybody. I can just celebrate the fact that I'm me. Warts, flaws, and all, beauty and grace when it's there. Just the reality of who I am and where I'm at, and that value is unique. It makes me special for just being me, and I don't need to be a supermodel to be special.
Right. I don't need to be paid for walking down a runway to be special.
You don't have to be taller to be special.
All right, I'm only 5'3", thanks. It's easier to disappear in a crowd.
Well,
but heels help.
Heels do help, and you have way more choices in the height of your husband being taller than you when you start out at 5'3". Just saying. I'm over 6 foot with heels on, and then it's suddenly, you're too tall, you're too tall. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just me.
Well, in God's point of view, that's exactly right. I'm just me, and I am perfect the way He made me.
Absolutely.
And His point of view is to see our uniqueness, and is to, what I loved about coming into relationship with Him, even deeper and closer on this topic, was that when God kind of showed me how He saw me, it was in a vacuum. It was in this place where He wasn't comparing or seeing anyone else when He looked at me. He just saw me. And in that place, He saw me clothed in Christ's righteousness.
And beautiful the way He created you in His image.
Exactly.
Even without two hands.
Yes. And choosing that every day was a practice and a skill that I had to learn day after day after day, but I had to continue to choose it intentionally day after day. But it helped me to, again, accept who I was inside and outside, and all of that beauty together.
Yeah, and it says, going to God in John 6:68, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of life, of eternal life. And there's so many places where the words that we have about ourselves, or the words other people have spoken over us, is damaging. And I'm like, yeah, I can let that go. Eternal life is a much happier place to believe and to have faith and to see myself through who I am. When I die on this earth, my body's gone anyway.
Right.
So where it fit into the mix of things no longer is an issue. But who I am as a person is something I take with me.
Right.
And so I want to choose the perspective of value and beauty, and have enough of that to share and spill out onto other people, which makes life so much happier, by the way.
Yes, I totally agree. And if you want to learn more about this topic, you can go to our website, bloomtodaytv.com, and there you can download our coaching tool, which will help you in this area figure out how you can take those next baby steps to seeing yourself how God sees you, and appreciating yourself from God's viewpoint. Which is exciting because we have this really amazing guest today that I can't wait to bring into the kitchen. She is a former Playboy bunny turned advocate, and actually newspapers called her Kentucky's Erin Brockovich.
Isn't that phenomenal?
I think that's fantastic. Cindy Sawyer, would you come in our kitchen and join us?
And Ginny, can you give her a hand,
I will,
please?
absolutely. Cindy, here's a hand for you, dear.
Do I get to keep it?
No, I have to lend it.
You're lending me a hand.
Yes, that's right. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
You are beautiful, and I can absolutely see why Playboy would say, yeah, let's go with that one.
And that's really neat and special that God gave you natural beauty. Because he did, and he lets us see that in different ways for different people. And I love the fact that when I look at you, I don't just see the physical beauty that he gave you, but I see your heart of love and kindness and caring for me, for the people around you. It just like
Exudes, right?
it's an aura around you
Right.
of beauty and grace and kindness.
But when you started your journey, you, I think, had some experiences being bullied as a young child as well, and had some trouble seeing yourself as beautiful.
Absolutely. So just ruthlessly bullied in high school. And my mother took me out of that school and put me in a private girls' school, and it started changing things for me.
Amazing.
That's helpful.
God.
Yeah.
Glad your mother did something to change it.
Yeah,
so
to change it, instead of doing the same thing day after day and living in fear.
Sure. But then that continued to follow you into adulthood as well.
It did. I mean, that thing about your body image, no matter what anyone tells you, you don't see it. You see something else. And so I always wanted to have big boobs.
So did you have that body image introduced to you at some point?
I remember finding a couple of Playboys under my dad's parents' bed and flipping through it. So that was in the 50s. Right. So it looked a little different than it does
today.
Later.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, these women are so beautiful, and that must be, my dad thinks so too, And so that image always stuck with me of the perfect body and what that looked like. And so when breast implants became available, I was like the first to sign up, very young.
Trying to reach that standard of beauty.
So 18 years old.
Wow.
And so when I got them, after maybe a year, I realized that I had made a big mistake. And there's no turning back. I'm stuck. And when I decided that I just can't take it anymore, I called the doctor. I said, I have to get these things out. And he goes, well, nobody's gotten them out.
Right.
And
wow.
Is it getting told, oh, by the way, that's hopeless.
It's
you
permanent.
Can't change that.
You can't get them out. Nobody's done that. And so he talked me into reduction.
Okay.
Get them out and get a smaller one, because he explained the horror of what I would look like. And he said, you're too young to have raisins on your chest, shriveled up.
That's what he tried to put it into your fear.
Big picture. And then so now I'm living in fear with that, so I agreed to reduction. And then I think maybe 2 months after that, I was just like, this is not working. I cannot live with this. And it was at that point that I recognized a huge shift in my self-esteem. When it snapped me. When I decided, I really don't care what I look like. I have to be me, no matter what.
Wow.
It was at that moment that my self-esteem went from low to what I call normal. Not high, but just I'm me and I'm proud of it. And I don't care if I have raisins. It's just what it is. And I told the doctor that, and I went back and had them taken out, and it wasn't anything like what he said. Nothing.
Right.
It was like normal.
Wow.
Well, because you were still young
Praise
enough
God.
that the skin has resiliency, your
Yeah.
body adapts, and here they are painting this horrible picture as if you're some much, much older person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, a doctor should know better.
Yeah, he said I look like a 90-year-old woman.
Whatever.
And he had never had anybody want him out.
Right. Well, he also didn't know, so he's apparently just going off of what he believed.
Yeah.
Right, rather than the truth.
So where in that time frame were you Playboy Bunny? Was it before that, during that, after that?
I became a Playboy Bunny, I'd say probably 2 months after I got them. And it was coincidence, because when I got them, I wasn't planning on being a Playboy bunny, but opportunity came to me.
Right.
And my girlfriend said, we're going up to Wisconsin. We're going to try out for the Playboy Club, and come with us. So I went, well, snap, I got the boobs, I can do this. So I did that and immediately got hired. And
Wow.
it's
amazing that having the body that you thought was the standard, and then being chosen to represent the standard of this same standard of beauty, and you still did not have the self-esteem that you wanted.
not at all.
Until you actually chose you for
Over the
yourself
world.
over all the rest of that stuff. And to me, that is it's just so cool that you came to that realization. You were still really young. A lot of people don't come to any acceptance. I didn't come to a true acceptance of who I was until, 39. Like this is recent history for me to start seeing myself differently. And it's not until the last couple years that I've actually just been settled. Like, you can like how I look or not. That's kind of your problem. I get to choose if I like how I look or not. And I'm going to choose that I like it. And that really helps me see it differently. But you did that at such a young age.
Right.
That you went from being bullied and went from making choices and then going, but this isn't my choice. This isn't what I want to do anymore. And then you made a different choice, and then you followed through on that choice despite the medical nightmares they're painting and everything else. And you chose a lifestyle to represent the beauty and the looks that you had to celebrate it, but then you also made a choice not to go national on that platform.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right.
And
because they picked me as Bunny of the Year for that club. And
which included a national competition.
Yeah,
right?
it was going to international, I guess.
International. Okay.
Wow.
And they said, well, you've got to be on TV in LA to represent. And I went, no, it's not going to happen. And then they had to pick someone else. But I realized, as you're talking, that fear made me choose what I did. And when I stepped out of fear in that place where I don't care what I look like, I moved out of fear. And so the decisions of keeping the implants was based on fear. And when I, faced fear, it's like, no, out,
Amen.
My no is my no,
But then you didn't just start standing up for yourself. You started leading the way to stand up for other people. And to me, that is such an amazing step when you're leading the way in a whole brand new way. So tell us about the first lawsuit. And
isn't it ironic that it was breast implant class action?
Right. Is where you started as an advocate. Yeah.
And so we had my two best friends. We all got implants at the same time. So it was the Three Musketeers.
Right.
So one of them was dying, and she came to me.
Were the implants poisoning her?
Yes.
Or, okay.
And she brought a box of her medical records and said, I'm dying, you need to help me. She had tried for months to get signed up with the class action.
Right.
And so and I tried to help her, and there was nothing. So I went to an attorney. I said, here's her box of medical records. Let's do this. So he said, well, if you do it, you can do it, and I'll back you. So I did it and got hundreds and hundreds of women across the United States classifications and money for their class action. And my friend died.
Which is so sad.
I was able to get her
that.
$60,000 for her child, but it was the implants.
Wow.
Which is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. But you didn't stop there. I mean, you stood up for yourself, and then you stood up for your friend, and then you stood up for
Hundreds
of women, and then you even went on from there and were involved in other class actions. Erin Brockovich, yeah, absolutely. It's a great that's a great comparison they made there.
Yeah.
So standing up for people like that is empowering people to stand up for themselves. Because as they joined, then they're also...
Yeah, and that was a real class for me too, because I realized I was kind of shy and didn't want to speak up for myself. And the fact that I was a voice for hundreds of women, I mean, nobody messed with me. The doctors that I had to work with, I said, this is how it's done, and this is what you're going to do.
Wow.
And so I became very strong with my voice,
Right.
because I had hundreds of women behind me, and I had to be there for them. And that changed me also, to have a voice.
Right. To have to use it.
To have to use it, not be afraid to use it.
Right, and take that on and embody that. Was there a moment for you where you felt in that process that you were actually blooming?
Oh, yes. I mean, I remember speaking with one of the rheumatoid specialists, and I said, will you give these women a classification? You know, they're going to be coming to you. And he said yes, and I educated him. And after 6 of them went, and he didn't give them a category, I had a really strong discussion with him, and it changed. So that was pivotal. That's where I guess I snapped. With the breast implants, I snapped, and I went, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I snapped with him, and through that snapping and, you know, spanking him verbally,
Right.
he behaved and did the proper thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that empowered you the next time you needed to stand up to go, now wait a second, you're not going to mess with me, you're not going to mess with the women I represent. Like, being able to stand up like that, and having been a part of a federal lawsuit myself personally, not a class action, but in a way when it was a broken little girl standing up to a guy that no one had stood up to in any way, and to know the courage it takes, and to know what you've done to help other people do that is amazing. Like, truly, in my world, it's like, wow. And you started doing that so young, and you just worked to change the world in that place of choosing the next right thing to do, the next important thing to do. It's awesome, and I think that's part of why that confidence and that glow you have, where you care about other people, and it just shines through you, is really neat.
And that's why you're our ex-victim of the week, Cindy. Paula, tell her what she's won.
You're an ex-victim of bullying, no matter what, because that is a huge issue. The number of girls now that commit suicide because they have been shamed and put down and attacked that way. And instead of it destroying you, you took every bit of that and ended up standing up for people that couldn't stand up for themselves, for shining a light, for taking a stand, and going through your journey that way. So you get the ex-victim tattoo that goes with mine, because, you know, we think you should, with the chocolates and the tissues that show that our journey's emotional in this process as women, as we go through this. And we're thrilled that you're here and with us, and that you are just owning who you are, and your beauty, your strength, and
You know, and God tells us that He has not given us a spirit of fear. He's given us power, love, and sound mind with His Holy Spirit, and you have embodied that on your journey so well, and shown again how standing up and owning this has made a difference.
it makes it where you can actually use the fertilizer of your past, is what we talk about, because we all have different types of fertilizer, so that we can bloom today.
A free PDF copy of the Bloom in the Dark book and a full list of Bloom Today's coaching tools can be found on bloomtodaytv.com. Then visit Bloom Today's Facebook group for deeper conversation.